3 days earlier, the kitchen smelled like fresh coffee and rain. Hannah burst through the door with her usual brightness. She always entered like she owned the sunlight. "Lan, I have the perfect idea," she said, tossing her hair. "Let me take Mai for a weekend filming trip in the Keys." Her tone was casual, but her eyes gleamed with something else. Mai looked up from her camera, instantly glowing. "A nature trip, just us?" she asked, hope breaking through her shyness. Lan hesitated, stirring her coffee, watching her sister carefully. "You'll bring enough water, right? And the satellite phone." Hannah waved a manicured hand like it was nonsense. "Come on, big sis, don't be paranoid. It's just a short trip." Lan frowned. "She's 16, she's never camped overnight." Hannah smiled wider, exactly why she should try. Her charm worked on everyone, especially their parents. That evening at dinner, their father praised Hannah's enthusiasm. "At last, she's bonding with your daughter," he said, refilling her glass. Their mother added, "Lan, stop worrying. Hannah knows what she's doing." The words hit Lan like small, invisible slaps. She wanted to protest, but the room was already laughing. When Hannah suggested Mai leave her backup camera and GPS at home, Lan's heart sank. "Too much tech ruins the art," Hannah said lightly. "Let her connect with nature for real." Mai looked torn, glancing between them. Lan forced a smile she didn't feel. "If you promise to take care of her," she said quietly. "Of course," Hannah replied too quickly. They left the next morning before sunrise. Mai texted one photo. Blue water, sunlight, her smile. No warning, no fear, just trust. By evening, Lan felt the house echo with silence. Her daughter's laughter had been replaced by the hum of the fridge. When she called to check, Hannah sounded distracted. "Everything's perfect," she said. "We're camping near the mangroves." Lan asked to talk to Mai, but Hannah laughed. "She's filming something special. Don't ruin the moment." The call ended with static. The next day, no messages came. Lan refreshed her phone 100 times. The unease grew heavy, spreading like cold smoke. She called their parents again. "Have you heard from Hannah?" Her mother sighed. "Honestly, Lan, stop inventing problems." Her father added, "You've always been dramatic. Let them enjoy their trip." That night, Lan sat by the window, watching the sky darken. Somewhere out there, her daughter was supposed to be safe. But her chest tightened every time she thought of Hannah's smile. A smile too polished, too rehearsed, too hollow. When dawn arrived, there was still no word. And by the second night, fear began to taste like truth. Lan stared at the phone, willing it to ring. When it finally did, it wasn't a call. It was that 3:47 a.m. notification. The one that changed everything. Lan called Hannah the moment the video ended. Her fingers trembled so hard, she nearly dropped the phone. Hannah answered on the 7th ring, her voice sleepy. "Do you know what time it is?" she muttered. "Where is Mai?" Lan demanded, her voice breaking. Silence stretched too long before Hannah laughed softly. "Oh, that. She wanted to stay longer, you know her." Lan's pulse thudded in her ears. "She's stranded on an island, Hannah. I saw her face." "That's ridiculous," Hannah said flatly. "She's probably making another one of her dramatic films." Lan's hands tightened until her knuckles turned white. "I'm calling the Coast Guard," she said. "Don't you dare," Hannah snapped, the calm gone from her tone. "You'll make a fool of yourself again." Lan hung up before she could reply. Her parents answered next, voices thick with sleep. "Mom, Dad, something's wrong with Mai," she said quickly. Her father sighed. "Lan, please, not this again." "She's in danger. I have proof." Her mother interrupted. "You always think the worst of your sister." They dismissed her with gentle cruelty. When the call ended, Lan sat frozen on the kitchen floor. She realized she was alone in this fight. She opened her laptop and typed into the GPS tracking app. The loading circle spun for 7 seconds that felt like years. A blinking dot appeared off the Florida coast. The coordinates matched the location in the GoPro footage. My signal hadn't moved in 18 hours. Lan zoomed in on the satellite view. A patch of mangroves, surrounded by endless water. Her breath caught. "Oh God," she whispered. Then another device appeared on the map. The backup GPS beacon she had packed herself. Its route ended miles away, on the mainland. The timestamp, 9:43 a.m. on Sunday. That meant Hannah had left the island early. She had taken the boat and never returned. Lan's stomach lurched. It wasn't an accident, it was abandonment. She opened the metadata viewer on Mai's video. Every frame confirmed the truth. Mai had been alone for over 2 days, in scorching heat. The water bottle seen in the clip was nearly empty. Lan pressed her palms against her face and sobbed. Then something inside her shifted. Terror gave way to resolve. She pulled on her jacket and grabbed her car keys. If no one else believed her, she would find Mai herself. She drove to Pelican Harbor, the nearest marina she knew. Lights flickered in the office window as dawn began to rise. Lan pounded on the door until a man appeared. It was Long, an old family friend. "Lan," he asked, startled, "what happened?" "She's out there," Lan gasped. "Hannah left her." Long didn't hesitate. "Show me the map." Within minutes, he was spreading nautical charts across the desk. Lan traced the coordinates with shaking fingers. "That's deep in the 10,000 islands," Long said. "Hard to navigate, but we'll find her." Lan nodded, her tears finally drying into determination. This time, she wouldn't stop. The engine roared to life before sunrise. Lan stood beside Long on the dock, wind biting her skin. The map glowed faintly on her phone screen. "Hold on," Long said. "This route's full of hidden sandbars." "I don't care," Lan replied. "We go now." They pushed off, the small boat cutting through dark waves. Seagulls circled above as the sky slowly bled to orange. Lan's hands clenched the railing until her knuckles ached. Every minute felt like another heartbeat lost. The Coast Guard radioed twice asking for confirmation. "Possible false alarm," the officer said. Lan grabbed the radio. "My daughter is dying out here." Static answered her desperation. Long adjusted course, his eyes scanning the horizon. "She doesn't have much time," he murmured. The temperature was already rising fast. By noon, the heat shimmered across the water like glass. Lan's phone buzzed, notifications flooding in. Hannah's social post filled the screen. "Please pray for my sister," it read. "She's having a breakdown and accusing family." Lan stared at the words, disbelief turning to rage. "She's trying to bury me," she said softly. Long didn't respond, just tightened his grip on the wheel. They passed the first cluster of mangrove islands. Each one looked identical, silent and endless. Lan checked the coordinates again. The blinking dot was still active, still faint. Her heart leapt. "She's alive," she whispered. But battery life was dropping fast, 8%. Long scanned the shoreline through binoculars. "Too many islands," he muttered. "Could take days." Lan shook her head. "We don't have days." The next hour stretched into eternity. They stopped at one island, then another. No footprints, no signal flares, only silence and heat. Lan's lips cracked as she called out Mai's name again and again. The sound died against the heavy air. At the sixth stop, Long pointed suddenly toward the beach. "Look there," he said sharply. Lan followed his gaze and froze. On the pale sand, white shells formed giant letters. "Help!" Her scream tore through the air before she realized it. She jumped into the water before the boat stopped. Waves slapped against her legs as she ran ashore. "Mai!" she shouted, voice raw. For a moment, nothing, only cicadas and wind. Then a weak whisper answered from behind the mangroves. "Mom!" Lan stumbled forward, branches cutting her arms. Mai emerged from the shade, sunburned and shaking. Her lips were dry, her eyes half closed. Lan caught her just as she collapsed. "I'm here, baby," Lan whispered. Mai's voice cracked. "She took my water." She said it was too heavy for filming. Lan's body went cold, despite the heat. Long rushed over with his emergency kit. He poured water onto a cloth and pressed it to Mai's lips. "Small sips," he said, slowly. Lan held her daughter's head, tears mixing with salt and sweat. Long called for a medical helicopter. The signal barely reached through the static. But the voice on the other end finally said, "Help is coming." Lan looked at Mai's fragile body and whispered a promise. "No one will ever hurt you again." The helicopter arrived just before sunset. Lan watched as paramedics lifted Mai onto a stretcher. Her daughter's skin was cracked, her pulse faint but steady. Lan climbed in beside her, holding her hand tight. Mai's voice was barely a whisper. She took my water, said it was too heavy for the shots. Lan felt rage burn through the exhaustion. Hannah's face flashed in her mind, smiling, rehearsed, false. At the hospital, doctors rushed Mai into the emergency ward. IV lines, oxygen, whispered terms like severe dehydration. Lan waited outside, hands clasped, heart pounding. A nurse finally emerged. She's stable, but she was close. Lan exhaled for the first time in days. Then her phone buzzed, another cloud notification. A new GoPro upload from Mai's account. She opened it with trembling fingers. The footage showed Hannah removing bottles from Mai's bag. "This will teach everyone who deserves Grandma's money," she said. Lan's breath caught in her throat. The truth was no longer hidden, it was recorded. She called Long immediately. "Bring everything you have, the GPS logs, the rental receipts." Within hours, the evidence covered her kitchen table. Each piece told the same story. Hannah had planned it from the start. No GPS tracker on the rented boat. Cash payments, no witnesses. Lan printed every timestamp, every frame. Her hands no longer shook. She was done being the quiet sister. Long arrived with notarized statements from Marina staff. They remembered Hannah clearly, confident, charming, deceptive. "She refused the safety equipment," Long said quietly. Lan nodded, because she never planned to keep her safe. The next morning, she met with the family lawyer. The man listened in stunned silence as she showed the evidence. When the GoPro video played, his expression hardened. "This is enough to open a criminal case," he said. Lan didn't flinch. "Then let's start." He contacted the district attorney's office immediately. Child endangerment, attempted manslaughter, fraud. Every word tightened around Hannah like invisible chains. By noon, an investigator called from the Coast Guard. "We've reviewed your rescue file," he said. "This is the clearest case of abandonment we've seen." Lan hung up, feeling the weight of justice beginning to shift. Later that day, her mother called, voice trembling. "Lan, please, don't destroy your sister's life over this." Lan stared out the window at the fading light. "She destroyed it herself," she said softly. Mai woke briefly that night, her eyes glassy but focused. "Is she in trouble?" she asked. Lan brushed her hair gently. "She will be." Mai smiled faintly, a trace of strength returning. Outside the hospital, cameras began to gather. Lan didn't care about headlines or pity. She cared only about truth. And now, she finally had it in her hands. The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and rain. Lan sat beside Mai's bed, holding her still hand. The door opened without warning. Hannah entered, followed by their parents, faces solemn. Her father carried a cheap bouquet from the gift shop. "Lan," her mother said softly, "we're here to make peace." Lan didn't move. "Peace comes after truth," she said. Hannah put a trembling hand to her chest. "You've misunderstood everything," she whispered. "I would never hurt Mai. She begged for solitude." Mai turned her head weakly, eyes shining with disbelief. Lan's father stepped forward, voice practiced and stern. Family must stay united, especially now. Her mother added, God teaches forgiveness, not vengeance. Lan looked at Hannah's perfectly arranged expression. There was not a trace of guilt, only calculation. I brought something, Lan said, unlocking her phone. She pressed play. Hannah's voice filled the sterile room. This will teach everyone who really deserves Grandma's money. The color drained from Hannah's face instantly. That's taken out of context, she stammered. Lan swiped again, playing the second clip. You're not leaving this island until I say so, Hannah said on screen. Not until the will is settled. The silence that followed was thick and merciless. Her father's mouth opened, then closed again. A knock sounded at the door. The family lawyer entered, folder in hand. I thought it best you all hear this together, he said. He laid down several documents on the table. These are Hannah's bank statements, he continued. She owes $120,000. Lan's mother gasped softly. The lawyer's tone stayed steady. The same amount she expected from her inheritance. Hannah's voice cracked. You had no right to dig through that. It's public record in a criminal case, he replied. Lan stood, her voice calm but cold. You plan to let my daughter die for money. Hannah took a step forward. I never meant. Lan raised her phone again. You searched how long humans survive without water. Hannah froze. Long entered quietly, placing printed screenshots on the table. Search history, survival rates, heat exposure limits. Her father whispered, Dear God. Lan met his eyes. Now do you believe me? He looked away, unable to answer. Her mother reached for Lan's arm, voice pleading. Please, we can still fix this as a family. Lan pulled her hand free. There's nothing left to fix. She pressed the nurse call button by the bed. When security arrived, she didn't raise her voice. These people need to leave, she said simply. Hannah's mask cracked at last. You'll regret this, she hissed, eyes burning. Mai whispered faintly. They weren't coming back for me, were they? Lan squeezed her hand. No, baby, but I came. Security escorted them out, their protests fatting down the hall. Lan turned back to Mai, voice steady and certain. We're done being their victims. The courthouse steps gleamed under the morning sun. Lan stood beside Mai, their hands locked together. Cameras lined the street, voices murmuring their names. The judge had allowed Lan to read her statement outside. Mai's therapist said it would be easier that way. Lan unfolded the paper, her voice steady. My daughter spent 57 hours alone on an island. She suffered burns, dehydration, and fear no child should know. Reporters leaned closer, microphones trembling in their hands. She was left there by someone who called herself family. Across the steps, Hannah appeared in a gray suit. Her face was pale, her smile rehearsed and brittle. This is ridiculous, she shouted suddenly. She's always been dramatic, just like her mother. The judge's voice cut through the noise. Miss Hannah, remain silent or be removed. Hannah froze, her arrogance draining into panic. Lan continued reading, her voice breaking only once. She survived because she never stopped believing I'd come. She is my proof that truth matters more than reputation. When she finished, the crowd erupted in quiet applause. A teacher from my school stepped forward, eyes shining. The whole community stands with you, she said softly. Mai managed a small smile, strength flickering in her gaze. Later that week, the court reached its decision. Hannah pled guilty to child endangerment to avoid a longer trial. 18 months in prison and restitution for all rescue costs. Lan watched her sister being led away in handcuffs. No joy, no triumph, only release. That evening, a letter arrived from their parents. Lan left it sealed on the kitchen counter. Mai asked quietly, Aren't you going to read it? Not tonight, Lan replied. It can wait. Months passed like soft tides returning to shore. Mai grew stronger, her skin no longer pale and fragile. She began leading wilderness safety workshops for teenagers. "Always pack 3 times the water you think you'll need," she said. Her voice carried across the classroom, firm and clear. Lan watched from the back, pride glowing quietly in her chest. The island had not broken her daughter. It had forged her. A cream-colored envelope arrived one morning in April. Lan opened it and gasped. A full scholarship to study marine biology at Stanford. Mai taped the letter beside her survival certificate. 2 symbols of victory and transformation. Lan founded the Harbor Light Foundation soon after, a nonprofit to support families of neglected children. Elinor, their grandmother, became its first donor. $50,000 to start the Harper Survivor Fund. For those who need a compass, the note read. That summer, they went camping in the Appalachian foothills. Proper gear, safety beacons, and enough water for days. Mai packed each item carefully, confidence in every motion. As Lan watched, Mai tossed her a small brass compass. "Grandma said it always points home," she said with a grin. Lan smiled, her heart full. Home, she realized, wasn't where family accepted you. It was where you learned to protect what truly mattered. The sun dipped low behind the marina, painting the sky gold. Lan and Mai stood by the water, quiet, unhurried. Waves lapped softly against the dock, steady and calm. Mai held the compass in her hand, the metal warm from sunlight. "It always points north," she said, "even when you're lost." Lan smiled. "Then we'll never lose each other again." The wind carried the faint smell of salt and pine. For the first time in months, peace didn't feel temporary. Letters from her parents remained unopened on the shelf. Forgiveness could wait until truth finished breathing. Mai laughed, the sound light and sure. "Next time," she said, "no islands, just mountains." Lan nodded, her heart finally free of fear. They walked toward the car, their shadows long on the pier. The future no longer felt like a threat, but a choice. Above them, gulls circled in the fading light. Lan looked once more at the horizon and whispered, "Home isn't where we came from, it's who we survived with." Mai slipped her arm through her mother. Together, they stepped forward as the last light disappeared.